समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या? समझ में नहीं आया।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉपअप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
अब समझा।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme related documents carefully.
I don't belong to any Raj era club, and I never will. There's a reason for that, and it's partly to do with inheritance, with heredity. My father had strong objections to Raj era clubs, and I can understand where he was coming from. As you probably know, most of these clubs were established by the British as a place where rulers could meet and keep the Indians out and chat to each other. Not only would they not allow Indians to become members, they wouldn't allow entry to Indians. The only Indians you could see at any of these clubs were sweepers, waiters, attendants, people like that. This was not like an anecdote. This was a hard and fast story. For instance, Jamshedji Tata, the great Jamshedji Tata, the story goes that he tried to get into the yacht club, which was called the Royal Bombay, still is actually, the Royal Bombay Yacht Club, and was told no. He was a brown chap and they wouldn't allow him in. Now, Sir Jamshedji at this stage was, as his name suggests, a knight of the realm, one of India's richest men. But no, the color of his skin was wrong, so they wouldn't let him in. Now, the legend says that Jamshedji said, okay, I'll teach you guys a lesson. I will build such a great hotel that nobody will ever think of you. And so he built the Taj Mahal Hotel next door. And of course, that's one of the world's greatest and most famous hotels. And nobody talks about the Yacht Club any longer. But this continued for years and years. The story goes that Lord Wellington, who was then the Viceroy of India and a really big shot in Raj terms, tried to take a Maharaja to lunch at a club. And he was told with much bowing and scraping that His Excellency was most welcome and it was a huge honor for the club. But as for this brown chap he was with, well, he'd have to go and eat somewhere else. Now, anybody else would have realized that in the 20th century, with things changing, it was time to tell the clubs to allow Indians to come in. Lord Wellington did none of that. He said, I'll tell you what, I'll start a club where these natives can mix with white people on equal terms and we'll be fine. So he started this club in Bombay, which he modestly named after himself. It was known as the Wellington Club, and it was the one club that let Indians in. Now, my father took all this personally. He thought it was a real affront to Indians that white people should come and impose color bar on us in our own country. After independence, when they were forced to allow Indians in, these clubs, according to me and my father, which should have been shunned as relics of the Raj, actually faced a horde of applications from Indians. Indians died to take the place of their former white masters, and they became what the thing, difficult to get into, long waiting lists. But hey, these Indians wanted to sit where white people had once sat. Now, my father objected so strongly that though he was asked sometimes to become a member of these clubs, he refused point blank. That's how I grew up. And while I don't agree with much of what my father believed in, on this I think he was right. People are welcome to join these clubs, but I am certainly not going to join a Raj club, and I never have in all of these years, because I think it's an unpleasant memory of a terrible period in Indian history when white people came to our country, kept us out of institutions, and imposed a color bar. But because I am not a member of clubs doesn't mean that I have a blinkered attitude to how they function. That takes us to the Delhi Gymkhana. Those of you who've been following the story will know that the Gymkhana and the government have had problems for a few years. At the moment, because of litigation and disputes, the club is run by a committee that's been appointed by the government of India. Now, it's gone a step further, and the government has said they'll take over the whole club, they'll take over the whole land. Why? Well, defense reasons, stuff like that. Security, defense, the Delhi Gymkhana. It's been next to the Prime Minister's house for decades. There's never been a whiff of any kind of security. Mr. Modi has lived next to it for 12 years. In any case, he's moving out. So why is there a security problem? I think the answer is deeper. There is some problem between some people in the government and the management of the Delhi Gymkhana. It's an old problem. It's been festering for a few years. And how it'll work out, I don't know. But it's interesting that while this little problem has gone on between the management and the government, it's become, at least on social media, a huge, huge issue. We're told by people that the Delhi Gymkhana is the place where the elite meets. It's where the establishment hangs out. It is where the deep state operates from. Or, if you go to the more Sanghi kinds of bloggers and tweeters, it's the kind of place where the liberal elite sits down to have a drink. And if you listen to all this nonsense, you would think that it was a club full of liberals where Sonia Gandhi ran the pizza counter, Rahul Gandhi parked his racing cars or his helicopters, congressmen all met. No, all of this is nonsense. I don't know how many of you have gone to the Delhi Gymkhana. It's none of those things. First of all, it's not particularly liberal until maybe last week. If you'd held an election there, an assembly election, Mr. Modi would have won hands down. It's not any kind of anti-BJP place, nor is it a hangout of rich playboys or millionaires. If you go there, you'll find that something like 80% of the membership of the Gymkhana is government employees, armed forces people and bureaucrats. Now, these people are not necessarily serving bureaucrats. And in fact, when you go to the club, there's a whiff of people who were once powerful, once counted for something, and now, because of age, because of retirement, they hang out at the Gymkhana because they've retired from the posts they once held. So if you go there, it doesn't really strike you as being the center of the millionaire liberal establishment. It's a club full of relatively old people, many of whom once occupied important positions in government, but no longer do. And as for millionaires and all of that, the majority, I think, of the members come to the Gymkhana because the prices are lower than five-star hotels. They couldn't afford a drink at the bars at five-star hotels, so they come and have a drink at the bar of the Delhi Gymkhana. If you read the sort of Sanghi commentary or the Sanghi IT cell type stuff, you wouldn't believe any of this. But it's the truth. And because that's the truth, because there are so many retired government servants, civilian and military, it's in the interest of the people who oppose the Gymkhana to portray it as a millionaire's playground. It's none of those things. It's one of those great Sanghi myths. It's like you've heard of the Khan Market gang. If you haven't been to Delhi, I'll tell you what that's about. Khan Market is a place where till about 10, 15 years ago, before Chanakya and Emporio and all these great malls opened, some rich people would go and shop. Now, I don't think any rich person goes to Khan Market. The language you hear in the shops is Punjabi or Hindi. It is no great international jet set place. And yet, this idea has been created that Khan Market is a symbol of privilege and that there's a Khan Market gang. I mean, it's nonsense. The Khan Market gang are basically BJP voters. Why do they keep at it? Because, I'll tell you that, but because partly it's Khan. When you have a name like Khan Market, it symbolizes secularism, which this crowd doesn't seem to like. But I'll tell you why they go on with all this stuff about liberal elites, etc. Because the narrative of Mr. Modi's BJP, ever since he came to power, and perhaps even before he came to power, has been that the BJP is a popular movement run by the people of Bharat, meant for the people of Bharat. It has supplanted some liberal establishment, which was a form of the dark state or the deep state. And even though this deep state counts for nothing officially, behind the scenes it runs the show. And the Delhi Gymkhana and all these places are run by secular liberals who still hold the levers of power. I mean, this is complete nonsense. The BJP wins every election. So is this whole complaint about the Lutyens gang. Now, Edmund Lutyens was the architect who designed New Delhi. And Lutyens is supposed to be a reference to Lutyens' Delhi, which is the part he designed. That has large bungalows which are occupied mostly by ministers and MPs. So the Lutyens gang should be people who live in Lutyens, Delhi, right? And who lives in Lutyens, Delhi? BJP ministers. They've lived there for a dozen years. So if there is a Lutyens elite, it's a BJP elite. It's not one liberal secular elite. Yet the myth continues. Delhi Gymkhana, Khan Market Gang, Lutyens elite, dark state, deep state, all of this is nonsense. These are narratives spread to hide from failures of politicians in other areas. So, given these two sets of views, one is that the Delhi Gymkhana is really a place for retired government servants and not part of any kind of deep state, and my view that the Delhi Gymkhana and many other clubs are places I don't enjoy going to and will never be a member of. Where do I stand? Well, I think certain questions need to be answered first. Is the Delhi Gymkhana a place that runs on a commercial basis? No, not really, because if it was to pay market rent, it couldn't exist. So yes, the Delhi Gymkhana is old. It started life as the Imperial Gymkhana, like all Raj clubs. It has an old arrangement to the government whereby it occupies the land for what is much less than market rent. Why did we go along with this for so many years? Well, because there was a belief, rightly or wrongly, that civil servants and military officers earned lower salaries than people in the private sector. We thought that when they retired, they didn't earn huge pensions. They had to struggle to make ends meet. And yes, it was okay to offer them a perk or two because they served the nation in a way that most of us did not. I think that's still true. And with 80% of its members being government officers, the Delhi Gymkhana is essentially a bureaucrats and military officers club. So I think that's fine. I think it's fine that they don't pay market rent. I'll give you one example. Have you been to a ministerial bungalow in Lutyens, Delhi? Have you seen the grandeur, the acres of lawns? These guys pay market rent? No, not only do they not pay market rent, not only do they get it free, they get huge cavalcades, entourages, they get every kind of deal that anyone could hope for as servants of the people. I don't think we realize how unusual this is in India. British ministers don't get homes from the government on the whole, nor do ministers in America and most other countries. It's just in India where we pamper the political class and give them all these privileges. So that's what the battle is. It's a battle between a service class, people who serve the government, many of whom have now retired, and ministers who not only are encouraged and allowed to have all kinds of privileges, also, if they want to, have access to vast pools of cash. Even with the kind of lifestyle the government gives them, most politicians spend more than they officially earn. You can guess, and I can guess, where that money comes from. So if you're going to complain about the Delhi club's rent, I accept that. There is a problem. But why pick on these retired bureaucrats? Why not pick on the political class? Why not move the ministers out of these bungalows? They could do their jobs in flats. Many of us work harder than them, and we don't live in that kind of luxury. They have privileges from the government argument is a bit of a non-starter. Yes, of course they do, but so does everybody who's involved with the government, and the political class gets a much better deal than any civil servant ever has. So should they be evicted? Should we allow the government to take over the Delhi Gymkhana land and tell all these guys to fade off into the sunset? I'll tell you the truth. It makes no difference to me. I really don't give a monkeys. I don't care about elite clubs. But if you look at the arguments and try and balance them, whose side would you take? Would you take the side of India's politicians, or would you take the side of people who worked most of their lives apolitically to advance India's interests? I think that's a non-starter. And because they realize that even that is a non-starter, they have now reduced this to a debate about deep state and liberal elite, Khan market gang, and stuff like that. It's not a debate about any of those things. What happens now? Well, my guess is that the matter will continue in the courts. The government has already said that the June 5th date which he'd given for the eviction will no longer be upheld. It's also committed to finding alternative land for the Delhi Gymkhana. The case will continue. I don't know how many years it will take, but nothing is going to happen for a while. But it's still instructive. because you wonder why the government is doing it. My theory is that it's just an escalation of a problem that's continued. But there are other theories. One theory is the government is doing it to show the liberal elite where it stands. It's trying to get rid of institutions it doesn't control. Yeah, that sounds good. I'm not sure that's true. The other theory is that they're going to build a huge defense installation. That makes no sense to me. Not in the center of what they call Lachin Delhi. That's not going to happen. So when I think of all of this, and I think, what would my father have made of this? Would he have been pleased that one of the Raj clubs that he never liked had been turfed out of its premises? Maybe. But I tell you what he would have liked even less. I think most Indian citizens, given a choice in these matters, will stand up for retired officers, for people who've worked for India, who've committed no crime, against the dadagiri and the overreach of politicians. So if you ask me which side I'm on the side that doesn't involve politicians.